Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. Shout out to all the new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate all of the guys who watch the content. If you are new to the channel, you haven't yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so when I get to running this mouth in this B-I-T-C-H, yes sir, you are in the loop. This is a very serious topic. I'm not going to be long. I say that every time. You know, black women be lying. You know, the title of this video, you say 80% of women are abused. Where was your mom? I did this video before, and technical difficulties meant that I wasn't able to upload it, which is really disappointing because I'm not really following a script or anything, but it's just something that was laid on my heart because it's something that we really need to address. Anytime I get into a discussion with black women online about issues in the black community, they always throw up this statistic of how many girls and women have been abused in the black community by the age of 18. And it's kind of like this I don't know what they think they are going to achieve by throwing out this so-called statistic, because if you're saying 80% of women or a significant number of black women have been sexually abused by the age of 18, the logical question isn't why are black men so wicked, because most people are attacked by people that look like them, because people operate according to proximity. You know, most white women are with white men, so they're mostly abused by white men. Most Asians, the same thing. Arabs, Jews, whatever. Most people date within their race, even within their culture, and their community, so they don't really have opportunities to be abused by outsiders. Okay? So the vast majority of black women are going to be abused by black men or by black women because that's who we're closest to. That's who has access to us. And it's access that I really want to talk about in this video, because I don't believe that the vast majority of black women who are being abused in some way are being abused by their biological fathers. They're being either assaulted by the boyfriends of their mothers, the stepfathers or the stepchildren, or they're being left to their own devices and getting into trouble. Somehow women throw this statistic out there as like they want to kind of shut down a conversation, or they think it's like a trump card, or maybe they want to say I'm traumatized and that justifies my bad behavior in the black community. And the reason why I make the videos that I make at the moment, the reason why at the moment all of them are pretty much directed at black women, is because black women fail to examine themselves and really place the blame where the blame needs to be placed. If you as a woman were abused as a child, that is a failure on the part of the adults around you. And because, like I said, I don't believe most women are abused by their biological fathers, it has to be noted that it's the mothers who don't vet these men properly, who bring these strange men in around their children, or they are leaving their children, you know, with people that they're not sure about. They're not creating an environment where if there's an issue, the child can come to them and tell them. They're not around to see that there's clearly evidence of abuse. You know, there's something that this, in particular, I would say the mothers fail to do, why the child has ended up being in a position where they're being abused. And instead of actually taking out, I don't want to say take out your frustration, but coming to terms with the fact that the sisterhood is failing, instead of coming to the terms of that, a lot of the people, they turn around and use that as an excuse to justify being cruel to men. At the end of the day, you know, not all men should be punished because of the actions of the few that let us down. And we need to understand that the sisterhood does not help women. The so-called black sisterhood is failing drastically because there is a huge amount of denial and there's a huge amount of delusion. As a woman, your first job before you have a child is to secure a good husband for your children before they're even born. And this is not to let a man off the hook, but it's in the man's nature to want to procreate. So when he comes in and he's around your daughter, socially, morally, you can say there should be honor. He shouldn't see her in a sexual way. And I'm not talking about children. We're talking about, young women who are maybe, going through puberty. They're starting to develop. We have a lot of young girls with mature women's bodies. I'm not blaming the victim, but you have females who dress, inappropriately around men who are not blood relatives. And that's not me blaming the victim, but I'm saying you have to be wise. We can't operate in the land and the realm of fairy tales and dreams and should-haves. The reality is this: if a man comes into a home and he sees a female, it's only socially he's going to say, I shouldn't approach this female because it's the daughter of my girlfriend. But biologically speaking, he might not be able to help noticing that she's a female in his presence. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't want to be accused of blaming the victim. And the reason why I say this, and this is not for me to look for sympathy or violins, is because I know it, because it happened to me. My mother was studying, she was working. I respect her because, for whatever reason, she got married, I believe at quite a young age, maybe like her late teens. My father didn't want a child. I don't understand how they're married, allegedly, but he didn't want kids. So he said it's a choice between the baby or the marriage, and she chose the baby, which was obviously me, and so he left. Okay? So there was already some issues there. That's why I say, it's down to the woman to pick the right man, because a lot of the problems in the black community would be solved if we just had stable, intact families. But because, we have way too many women who are on this strong and independent tip, I want to pick my own man, I don't want to listen to advice, I don't want to pick according to the right things, maybe there's no one overseeing, like a patriarchal figure to look out for the daughter, because in a true proper patriarchy, yes, as a woman you may feel a bit more confined, but at the same time that confined comes with protection. That's how it's supposed to be. But in a society where we're completely liberated and completely under feminism, women are actually left completely exposed. And that's one of the reasons why, especially in the black community, we have such a high rate of pedophilia and sexual abuse and trauma, because degenerate people are running unchecked. And nobody's able to check them because so many of the men in our damn community are feminized. They're raised in households with no father. They're not raised to be masculine. They're raised to sit down under the leadership of women. They have a physical body, depending on where you come from, the hardware or the firmware of a male, but the mindset of a female. They're indecisive, they're followers, they're submissive, they're emotional, they're erratic. This is all a byproduct of being raised in a dysfunctional situation, primarily under the leadership of women. And it's been shown that men who are raised in single mother households are actually more likely to abuse women. And I haven't, gone into detail why, but I can imagine when a woman gets into a fight, she doesn't hold back. So when she's beating the child, disciplining the child, maybe she's emotional. That constant emotional state that the child is in, he develops and carries it into adulthood. He's not only reactive instead of responsive, he's not only emotional instead of logical, he's not only impulsive, because that's more prone to the nature of a woman, but there also could be contempt and resentment there. Now, I'm not saying run around, because this is a typical shaming tactic, especially of black women. And I know, because when I'm online with a generic avatar, for example, as soon as you say anything that is not critical of men, they assume you're a man, you're a boy, you're an incel, you're a loser, bi. And if you don't believe me, just go out there with a blank avatar and a generic name. As soon as you look like you could potentially be a man, the disrespect just comes right to the top. And this is a problem we have in the black community. There's such a contempt for the black man that even black women pass that on to their children. You see, I put up a video earlier about the kind of promotion we don't need. What caught my eye and what really drove me to finally make the video was this Nubian something. I don't know what the product is. And it's like they made sure that the black woman, the darkest black woman in that promotional advertisement, they made sure she was obese. And that just pissed me off. I'm like, out of all of the friggin' attractive, dark-skinned black women around the world you could have found, you had to find an obese, dark-skinned black woman. And I'm not going to go into the whole colorism is real, let's cry about colorism, but I'm thinking to myself, they send out a message so that we can be laughed at all the time. Precious was not just a movie. We identify with these movies and we look at it as people. But people outside the black community look at it as those blacks. When white people or non-black people watch a movie like Precious, their perception of us is in the gutter. Now, I understand that we need to talk about these issues. It's important that movies like that get made because it opens the dialogue that needs to be had. Because we understand as people are talking and social media is evolving, more and more people are coming forward, male and female, saying, my mother's boyfriends used to abuse me. When I used to get babysat with my cousin, this happened. When I went to my uncle, and then I have to go to family functions and they're there. I tried to tell my mother, she didn't listen. I tried to tell my mother because the guy was so brazen, he dropped hints. Maybe he wanted help. Maybe he wanted to stop. And so he made certain comments, but the way she approached me and things she said later on, it made me feel like somehow I warranted the abuse. So when guys say, or, we've seen the videos of women, the daughter's trying to tell them something's happening and nothing gets done, it's a reality in some situations because I have personally been there. Okay? So I'm not looking for a violin, I'm not looking for sympathy, but I'm saying these are the ways mothers fail their own children when it comes to things like childhood sexual abuse and trauma. It's something that we need to address, and we need to address it because at the end of the day, the contempt and the anger and the disrespect and the dysfunction is being all placed on the black men. Don't get me wrong, if you're a sexual predator, you are 100% responsible for your choice of actions. No, it doesn't matter, whether the child is walking around naked, whether the child is rolling around. At the end of the day, you are an adult. You should not be putting your hands on a child or a minor. But at the same time, those predators should have been checked long time. But because we don't have communities, because we don't have fathers in the homes, because we don't have women who prioritize the protection of their children over their careers, their education, and their own personal needs, we have a lot of people being traumatized during childhood, never getting the help, and then going out and being a trauma to somebody else. That's the other aspect. this strong and independent, I need to get my education, I need to get my job because I haven't got no man in the house, I've got to take care of all these kids. You're not a hero. This is not a heroic way to live. And that's not me calling anybody a failure or throwing anybody under the bus or saying, oh, well, single mothers ain't shit. But at the end of the day, I am kind of imploring you, if you are not a single mother, please do not go there. Because there's only one of you. You cannot spread yourself that thinly that you are going to be able to take care of all of the things you need to take care of. Something is going to get overlooked. And single mothers have a reputation of being easy, because if you spend all day at work and the little bit of free time you have to then dedicate it to your kids, obviously you're going to feel neglected. So when you get a guy who's coming around looking like this could be a great companion for me and somebody for the kids, you don't understand that that man could only be coming around you because he wants access to your children. I wanted to do a video with single mothers, but there's certain, I don't want to put the title up and then I get an influx. But this is one of the things that men are complaining about with this whole single mother culture. The children are constantly being failed because they need the input of two parents, they need the financial support, they need the discipline, they need the masculine and the feminine energy, and they need to be protected. If my mother had married right, she could have been at home. Then she wouldn't have a boyfriend that she negligently left me with repeatedly, even after it came out something's not right here because this man keeps doing certain things. For example, we all know you've got to plait the kids' hair, right? She plaits my hair on the Sunday and it's hot. It's like so tight you can barely sleep hot. And like it was holidays. So on the Monday or the Tuesday, he tells me, take all of your hair out. So he's an adult, I'm a 9-year-old child. When my mother came home and asked me why you did that, I said he told me to. And you see how like when I say run in my mouth, like I literally say what you see type of person. You know, people say I'm rude, but it's not that I'm rude. It's like I have no filter because I'm just like, that's what I see, so that's what I said. So thank God to an extent, because I just came out with it like, well, what do you want me to say? He told me take it out, because I wasn't groomed enough to be afraid to tell her the truth. But obviously, if you have other people who are more deceptive, they are dangerous because they're going to put pressure on the children to not tell, and that's how the abuse goes on for years, because an emotional connection is formed to the point where the child doesn't want to betray the abuser. So I wasn't at that stage, so I just came out with it. So she must have been thinking, I'm getting some conflicting messages. He's saying one thing, she's saying another, and the evidence is not adding up. But she still had him in the house, even after she realized something was not quite right. This is why I'm asking this question, where was your mother? Because at the end of the day, if you're a woman, you get approached by a number of men, you cannot make a man want to be your husband, but you have a duty to try your best to select out of the ones who do want to marry you, the best one. And with that patriarchal support and the backup, you can be protected. Like if anything goes down, we've got men on deck that will gladly do time to take this person out. But we don't live in a society like that. We don't have a community like that, because so many of the men have been broken from childhood. They cannot protect. It's this kind of argument why a lot of brothers become frustrated. They hate. This is why this whole April Mason thing, and actually why I started making videos, happened. Because April Mason, not just her, because there's a lot of YouTubers who do it, they know who they are. They like to have this conversation about protection, but you have to raise a male to be a protector. You have to raise a male to be a provider. And what these women refuse to address, as I said in the video, black women create the men they complain about. What these black women refuse to address is the failure of the mothers who made these men what they are, which is, in some instances, dangerous, effeminate, unsuccessful, unable to compete. This conversation has to be had, because if women do not want to address the fact that they are failed actually more by other black women than anybody else, we will never have a functioning community. We will just continue to churn out broken people, and people who are vulnerable, people who are being taken advantage of, and people who are disadvantaged. It's time that we use our YouTube and our social media for the things that really matter. And this is something that really matters, because I'm getting sick and tired of people using, well, I was abused as a child, as an excuse. Even though I can understand, because if you don't go to therapy and work through those issues, it will start to come back on you in adulthood. But I'm also getting tired of women refusing to acknowledge that the sisterhood is failing. It doesn't matter how much you call yourself empress or queen or god or goddess. That's just a word. It's just BS. If you're a queen, operate like one. And if you are somebody who says you want to have children, your first responsibility as a good mother is to find a good father for your kids. Not have the kids and then go hunting. Because in that desperation, you can even bring a pedophile into your home. That's all I have for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Are men really responsible for all the issues in the black community? Do we need to hold women more accountable? If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.